Lieutenant General Yaroslav Moskalik, who was killed in a car explosion in Balashikha, near Moscow, on April 25, was responsible for monitoring the situation in the war in Ukraine. This fact was also reflected in the obituary published in the newspaper, Krasnaya Zvezda, the organ of the Russian Ministry of Defense. Since the beginning of the war, Moskalik has led the duty staff of the Combat Management Group of the General Staff of the Russian Armed Forces and coordinated monitoring of the situation in the zone of combat operations. He was also involved in the preparation of analytical materials for President Vladimir Putin and the Minister of Defense. Among those who signed the obituary are the new Minister of Defense Andrei Belousov and Chief of the General Staff Valery Gerasimov. Ukrainian intelligence services have eliminated Yaroslav Moskalik, who served as Deputy Chief of the Russian General Staff's main operational directorate. Secretary of the National Security Committee Roman Kostenko confirmed in an interview. "What can I say? I'm pleased. This is the right work by our intelligence services," Kostenko said. "I believe we must understand that even if we reach a ceasefire soon, the work of intelligence services will only be beginning." He also stated that such operations target all individuals involved in war crimes against Ukraine, those who fired at civilians, launched missiles, analyzed targets, made decisions, or gave orders. This will become the primary mission of our intelligence services and the SBU, to ensure these people are punished, no matter where they are. They should be afraid even to leave their homes, let alone leave the territory of the Russian Federation, Kostenko added. According to the FSB, the explosion of Russian general was carried out by 42-year-old Ignat Kuzin. He reportedly has a residence permit in Ukraine. He allegedly bought a car in advance and planted a homemade explosive device in it. The components of the device were obtained from secret warehouses set up by Ukrainian special services around Moscow. On April 27, the Moscow Main Court arrested Kuzin on charges of a terrorist act. The next day, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, without mentioning Moskalik by name, praised Ukrainian intelligence for the killing of high-ranking representatives of the Russian armed forces. "Justice will definitely prevail," he declared.
The Russian military command and dictator Vladimir Putin prematurely announced the expulsion of Ukrainian forces from the Kursk region. Fighting there continues to this day. This was reported by the Russian Z Resource Northern Channel associated with the Russian armed forces. In fact, Z Channel accused Putin and the Russian Defense Ministry of lying about the Kursk region. On the ground, the situation looks different. Fighting in the Kyiv, Gornali and Oleshnya areas continues. The enemy is resisting and it is too early to talk about full control. Severny Kanal reported. He specified that the Russian armed forces are also having problems in the Belgorod region. Fighting is also continuing in the border area there. The enemy continues to pull reserves to the border, obviously preparing for new attacks, added Z Channel. Putin announced the complete liberation of the Kursk region on April the 26th. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine immediately refuted this statement, calling the Russian dictator's words a propaganda trick and an attempt to pass off wishful thinking as reality. OSINT Project Deep State also notes the presence of Ukrainian forces in the border area of Kursk Oblast on the morning of April the 27th. According to its data, the Ukrainian armed forces control about 20 square kilometers of Russian territory, and approximately the same size territories are a grey combat zone. The defense forces continue to hold a number of territories in the Kursk region. Lieutenant General, former Deputy Chief of the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Igor Romanenko, spoke about this on the air of Radio NV. This refers to the monastery in the Kursk region and a couple of settlements, and also after the raid in the Belgorod region, Demidovka and around it. For the Russians, this is a propaganda issue that they have already liberated all of Russia's territories. This is fundamental for them, but they cannot achieve this. It is clear that they have forced out the main territory that they controlled, but it is certain that this is not happening completely, Romanenko said. He added that Russian propagandists are using the same approaches as in relation to the Luhansk region. They have been showing for years that they have captured the administrative borders, but 3 to 5% is under the control of the Ukrainian defense forces. Fake approaches are nothing new. The only thing is that the situation has become more acute now. After all, they are moving to bargaining over territories, Romanenko added. During the Kursk operation conducted by the Ukrainian Defense Forces on the territory of the Russian Federation, Russia and North Korea lost 62.4 thousand and more than 4.5 thousand soldiers respectively. This was reported by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Since August the 6th, 2024, when the Ukrainian Defense Forces began the Kursk operation, Russia has lost 62.4 thousand personnel in the operational zone of the Kursk group of forces, of which 25.2 thousand were lost irretrievably, 36.2 thousand are sanitary losses. Another 983 servicemen of the aggressor army were taken prisoner, which made it possible to conduct exchanges with the Russian Federation and return hundreds of Ukrainian soldiers home from Russian captivity, the General Staff noted. The total losses of the DPRK army in the Kursk direction amount to more than 4.5 thousand killed and wounded, the report says. Since August the 6th, 2024, the armed forces of Ukraine have been conducting an offensive operation in the Kursk region of the Russian Federation. According to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, the Russian Federation has transferred 60,000 troops to this direction, including those taken from the front in Ukraine. The head of state stated that the creation of a buffer zone in the Russian region by the Ukrainian army is one of the main tasks of the defense forces. Recall, Russia acknowledged for the first time that North Korean troops were on the front lines of its war with Ukraine, with a senior military official crediting their role in helping Russian forces reclaim control of the Kursk region. I would like to separately note the participation of military personnel of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Valery Gerasimov, the Russian Chief of General Staff, told Russian President Vladimir Putin in a report. Gerasimov added that under a comprehensive strategic partnership between the two countries, North Korean soldiers have provided significant assistance to Russia's army in defeating Ukrainian forces. Putin congratulated his military in a statement from the Kremlin on Saturday, adding that the full defeat of the enemy in the Kursk border region creates conditions for further successful actions by our forces on other important parts of the front.